Hi folks, we are looking at the Mig-25 PD on the Devserver. All the normal disclaimers apply that everything I'm going to be showing you here is subject to change. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and all that so that you can catch my full review of this in my regular format as quickly as I can get it to you. This is going to be coming in from the winter event, and it's going to be at battle rating 10.7 for air, 10.3 for ground, at least on the Devserver. Now, taking a look at the radar, it's got the Sapphire 25. On the Devserver, this functions very similar to the Sapphire 23 on the MiG-23. It's listed as having a look-down all-aspect mode. That is an MTI mode that, again, like the MiG-23, turns on automatically if you are flying below a certain altitude. You cannot currently manually enable the MTI mode if you are, for example, flying up at 10,000 meters, trying to target something below you and getting a whole bunch of ground clutter interference. You just have to deal with it. That is not a great detail. They also gave this thing the infrared search and track unit under the nose, which is expected. On the pilot, we have an SPO-10 radar warning receiver, nothing new or exciting there, no ballistics computer, nor should there be. And the reason for that, of course, is that, taking a look at the weapons, our only ordnance is some air-to-air missiles. There is no gun on the MiG-25, nor should there be. Your semi-active radar missile is the R-40RD. It's got inertial guidance and semi-active radar guidance, 20 Gs of pull, relatively decent range, especially for this BR. Your chonky infrared missile is the R-40TD, all-aspect IR, again, relatively good range, and even relatively good targeting distance in all aspect. This is going to be I think, a formidable weapon. Of course, you can also take pairs of R-60Ms on the outer pylons. Taking R-60s on a MiG-25 is very optimistic. And you're going to see why in just a minute here. Let me select this loadout, and I'm going to get this up into the air. Okay, we are out in the MiG-25 up in the air, and there's a bunch of stuff I want to show you that's going to have some downtime in between the demonstrations, so there's going to be a bunch of cuts here. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is, again, the radar. You're going to notice that it switches into MTI automatically based on my altitude and my pitch. I'm not doing anything to make that happen. It's automatic. I cannot control it manually, so not necessarily too great. Next thing I want to show you is no ACM targeting. All I have is regular cyclic targeting for these MiG-15s out in the distance. If you have a good signal return, that's fine, but like if I was at a higher altitude and I had ground clutter, that could be a little suboptimal. We do have infrared search and track. You can see that there, and we've got different scan angles we can use with that. Of course, this is a derivative of the Sapphire radar set, so I do not have any custom scan angles on the scope or anything, and the scope will go out to 120 kilometers. The dark shaded green area, of course, is the range at which we can reliably lock a target. So that's the radar set. Next, let's demonstrate some flight characteristics. Okay, the first thing I want to show you, which I believe is going to be the major issue in the game with the MiG-25. The maximum aerodynamic speed at lower altitudes is a lot lower than you think, and it's not because of the engine thrust or anything. It is because of that. This plane is going to fly itself apart in level flight basically at almost any altitude, unless you climb up to excessive altitude, which I'll show you in a minute. If you just punch the throttle to max and fly in a straight line, you are going to run into some problems. Okay, so I've got the MiG-25 up a little over 10,000 meters here. In a practical sense, I almost never see people actually try air combat any higher than this, you know, out in a live War Thunder match at this BR. So I thought this would be a relatively useful sort of demonstration of the maximum speed and acceleration at a realistic combat altitude where you might actually try and fly this thing. The acceleration, as you can see, up through Mach 2 is still really good. However, we're about to hit a little bit of a speed bump here. You're going to see our indicated airspeed is redlining. We're a little over. We're going towards 2.2. We're not going to get much farther than that. Oh. There you go. A little under 2.3 before this thing rips itself apart. You know, at a reasonable combat altitude of like 10 to 12,000 meters. Of course, up at higher altitudes, without a missile load, you can push the MiG-25 a little bit past Mach 3 before it falls apart. Not useful in actual gameplay, but it's cool to know that you can. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you before we wrap this up is the turn performance on the MiG-25. Now, I'm at around a little over 2,000 meters here. This is, I think, a good altitude where a lot of combat realistically happens at this BR. The roll performance, as you can see, is kind of garbage, and it should be. And, you know, I'm relatively heavy at the moment. I've got 30 minutes of gas on unlimited fuel because it's a test flight, and I've got 4 missiles out on the wings. So, you know, that roll performance isn't very good. However, I want you to check this out. I'm going to go full afterburner and go in full pole horizontal turn here. Immediate 7 Gs. But I want you to look at my airspeed. I am in a slight climb, maintaining this sustained 7G turn, and I am gaining airspeed. It's not energy retention in a sustained turn, it's energy gain in a sustained turn, which is absolutely bonkers. Now, you're not going to be able to do that at every altitude, at every speed. If I go down into lower altitude and I drop off a bunch of this airspeed and I get to like maybe 600 knots, 600 kilometers an hour, that same thing isn't going to happen if I go into a full pull turn with the afterburners. Let me just set this up here. It's being a little stubborn. All right, this will be good enough. So we're down on the deck. Full pull turn with afterburners. We are going to start losing airspeed down at this lower altitude at this lower speed range. So, you know, that infinite speed trick in a turn isn't going to work at every speed and every altitude. But the point is that the flight model on this is going to be really, really weird. There's definitely going to be a learning curve to using this thing effectively, you know, out in air combat. Anyway, I'll shut up here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel so that you can see a full review of this in my regular format as soon as the event comes around and I can get my hands on this. As always, thanks for watching.